Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Love Well by Doing Good. You haven't seen that intro before, have you?
I have not. I like it. Nice and short and punchy.
Yes. So I have a really special guest today. Probably really the most special person in my whole life because this is my husband, Tom Corrigan.
Well, thank you.
Tom is probably one of, if not the most special person in my life because he's my husband. And when the day came when I was in a workshop thinking about what the heck am I here on this earth to do, Love Well by Doing Good was really born out of a lot of the conversations and backgrounds that we have had, and particularly an experience that I even shared on the first podcast that we'll talk a little bit more about. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And for those of you who listened last week, I hope you're reminiscing and thinking about the ways that you did love well by doing good. And I always like to hear about those. And so you can always email or put comments and let us know how you're doing that in the world. Maybe some of you out there could even be a guest on the show at some point. So I don't want to just start with now. I mean, we've been together 25 years. So we have talked about this a lot in our life.
A lot.
But even before then, I would really love for you to tell everybody a little bit about who you are and your background. And when did this become a thing for you? Like the whole idea of putting purpose as your focus versus just making money or accomplishing some other goal. So first of all, tell a little bit about who you are and what you've done in your life, in your long life.
Oh, golly.
That's a couple episodes.
Well, let me go back to my childhood. No, seriously. Yeah, my mother actually planted seeds for this in myself and my 5 siblings. And she was a refugee from a war-torn country many, many years ago. She came to the United States, and she was so grateful that the U.S. opened the doors to her that she lived a life of overt kindness and expressions of kindness. But one thing that she would say to us on a regular basis is that it doesn't cost any more to be kind.
Is that why you wore your Be Kind shirt today?
I think so.
We're kind of color coordinated too, but
so that has stuck with me in my operating system, and throughout my life, and it's shown up in a lot of different ways. But I think it has found expression in calling and living in community and neighborhoods as clearly as well in a business.
So will you give us, because your mom was so cool, even though she wasn't even 5 feet, she was a powerhouse of a person. Tell us a story about how she lived this out in her life, because you've got so many great stories. So what's one of your favorite stories about how she did love well by doing good?
She always took the side of the underdog, the oppressed, the excluded, the marginalized. And even, we lived in a very small town and depended a lot on radio, minimal TV when we were young. But she would hear on the news that somebody had a terrible fire, a house fire, and they would lose everything. And she would call all the kids together and say, they've got somebody your age and your age, and so go to your closet and get one shirt and wear one pair of pants. And I'd think, well, I only have 2 pairs of pants. She goes, well, you'll still have one more than some people. And that's how she would deliver stuff. And she was always active in her faith and her church. This might sound funny, but she was the first white person to become a member of the NAACP in Ohio. And she was a powerhouse. She was a force to be dealt with. People would be ugly, and she knew how to speak to them very calmly, but pull them down, so that they stop feeling so superior to everybody else.
And pull everybody up in the
yes, exactly.
Didn't you even have refugees living in your home at one point?
We did. back in the 60s, there was this thing called the Cuban airlift, and it was when things changed politically, and there was lots of people fleeing Cuba. And we heard in church that some refugees were going to be coming to our town, and she and my dad had a huddle that afternoon and announced we're going to take in some other people.
Now, just so you all know, Tom had 5 siblings, so 8 people in the house. I only grew up with 1 bathroom for a while. Did you have more than 1 bathroom?
No, for quite a while we had 1 bathroom, and there were 4 women, so we were always last in line.
In fact, you said God lived in the bathroom. Yeah. Because your dad would say, "Oh God, are you going out?
Are you ever going to come out of there?"
But anyway, we digress. But so the whole
we moved to a larger home when I was first in grade school, and there was 1.5 baths.
But even still, the thought of 8 people. And now you're going to take in some more people.
I shared my bedroom, which was not large, with my 2 brothers. And all of a sudden, I thought, okay, well, we're taking in Octavio, who's your age, Tom.
Wow, you still remember his name, huh?
I do, because we got real close, because I shared my bed with him.
Oh, wow.
And I shared my desk with him, because the room at the church, at the Catholic school I went to, the room was packed, and so we actually shared a desk. So we became friends after I got over, mild resentment about, hey, wait a minute, this is hard enough, let alone now sharing it with somebody else. But it embedded in me, what's the greater good? If we don't, then what happens to these people? They're left with nothing, left out, and he didn't speak a word of English, which also made things
interesting.
Yeah, so for a while I kind of guessed at what he wanted and be his mouthpiece, until finally the teacher says, "Tom, you have to let him learn." So, anyways, that's where the origins of my inner track run. I've been a serial entrepreneur in one way or another. To be honest, I'm a lousy employee.
We both are. I mean, not because we're bad. We're not going to follow leadership.
I get along with people, but when I see something that doesn't work, I want to let somebody know. Yeah. And not everybody appreciates that. So, I've owned a lot of different companies. Some of them made money. Some of them were absolute abject failures, but they were all learning.
We call them seminars. We learned a lot.
That's right, we learned a lot. And then I found myself, my faith was renewed and took a new direction. And
before you talk about that, because you had companies before you really kind of entered that nonprofit church world, did you have this idea of a purpose more than running a business or making money? Was that part of your operating system then? Or, I know it was who you are, but did you think about it in terms of positioning your business in some way to do good things besides just the things you did for customers or employees? Or
because I was, younger, and learning how to start and run businesses. I didn't put it in print. It was not overt, but I've always, there's been an undertone of I know what I need, and if I make more than that, I can invest some, and I can invest the rest in people or causes. And that's always been kind of the undertone of what we do. And then it led me into training in professional ministry, in that we started a church.
And you would assume in a nonprofit or professional ministry that this would just be a given, right? That your whole purpose was more important. And I was in that field also.
Right.
And that isn't always, then wasn't always the case, right? That wasn't always the benchmark. It was, often like business, right? Like how many people, like, we were measuring people, not really measuring purpose or impact necessarily, even though
the insider language and all that is butts and bucks, or nickels and noses, and they're real things, but I think they become out of proportion.
They can, right?
We always started churches with the idea that we're going to burn out buildings. We're going to just use them.
Not burn them down.
Yeah, burn them down.
But you mean like use them
just up. Use them up. And that kept us in check, so that no matter what we did, we didn't put ourselves in deep debt that was going to be a stretch all the time. We would just wait till we had sufficient resources to move forward. We did go to banks and borrow money and had people in the church help with that, but it didn't put us in a place where if we didn't get X number of people on Sunday, then we all started sweating because we couldn't pay the mortgage or the gas bill or take a salary. So I ended up helping to start 5 different churches, and then moved into the nonprofit realm. Well, I was able to take what I learned about leadership development and people and community development, and that's what brought me out to Colorado from Ohio.
And that's how we met.
That's right.
When we were both interested in doing that, and so along the journey, God put us together because of that. So.
Our streams kind of all of a sudden ran together. And
I mean, I love one of the stories that, one of the churches we love to listen to and support in California is Bethel Church in Redding, California. And I always love the stories about the things that they've done to help other churches in the area, like even churches who've been very critical of them. I remember the story about them like going and paving someone's parking lot, right? And so, that shouldn't be like an anomaly, but especially in that realm, right? That, yes, we're helping our organization, but how can we love well by doing good even beyond that? And so they're a great example, I think, of not only looking at, that whole idea for their own people, but looking at their city and their community and saying, we exist to impact the world, really, but, especially where we live, and how can we do that in really tangible ways? So, if you haven't ever checked them out, they have really cool stories around that. So you end up in this church world, and then you end up in the nonprofit, kind of what we call parachurch world, training other people in leadership and community.
Right.
And do you have any stories about loving well by doing good? I mean, out of the ordinary. I mean, we assume, again, right, if we're going to church and, good stuff is, or going to a faith-based or spiritual or religious organization, that's going to be part of what we experience.
Right.
And yet, there's so much more, I think, that can be done. And I know you've worked in organizations where you did that kind of stuff. So any good stories there you want to tell?
Let me backtrack to the last church I helped pastor in Cincinnati, and I worked with a man named Steve Sjogren, and he's written several books, but one is Conspiracy of Kindness, and it was all about random acts of kindness, which sometimes became less random. We would plan ahead and do massive outreaches by taking care of people.
You should get him on the podcast.
He'll fill up several podcasts. He's still doing this a lot. But we would do free car washes, which was strange because when you see the word free on a sign, you go, "What's that really mean? What's the hook?"
Right.
And people would say, "Well, what do you want?" We said, "We want to serve you and wash your car." Yeah, but what do you want? What's it going to cost? There's no cost to you. So we just want to show you the love of God that he has in practical ways.
I got to do that with you at a reunion. I mean, it was so moving and inspirational because we just got to have real conversations with people because of just washing their car, as people in tears and people we could just comfort or pray for or just be with. It didn't have to be any kind of religious experience. It was just humans loving other humans.
Right.
Loving well by doing good.
And that was part of the purpose, that we were going to give away top 10% right off the top to outreaches in both in Cincinnati and then around the world. Yeah, our church sat, a little church, we bought a building, sat on a main feeder street. And we were in a staff meeting once, and we were looking out the window, and all this traffic backed up. And it was very hot. It was, in Ohio and the Midwest, it gets not only hot, but very humid. And people were out there sweltering, waiting in line to move on because there was construction. Anyways, we just said we had to go out and feed those people, give those people a cold drink. And then we discussed it and said, well, how are we going to do that? So somebody went to a distributor and told them what we were going to do, and they gave us a discount, and we bought a whole flat. I mean,
like a truckload.
Yeah, yes, of Coke and Diet Coke. We just thought, people like choices, so we offer them both, and we bought big coolers and iced stuff down for a whole day, and then hauled them out and stood alongside the road, and we would just walk up and down as cars came, and we'd say, would you like a Coke or Diet Coke?
And you weren't asking for a donation.
No, not at all.
Money.
And we would put a card about the church under the tab. It was a perfect place because it would hold it. And it wasn't asking for them to come. It wasn't asking for them to donate. It was just saying, you've been served today. People have been served, but usually by lawmen and not by. And they said to it, I had never seen a church with a handout. So we're not looking for a handout from you. We wanted to give you a handout, today, because you look hot and this is cold. And people were flabbergasted. But it was a simple way to impact people it was on a Friday afternoon. People wanted to get home from work, and it was backed up and hot. But we had so much fun. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of cans we gave away, and that became a regular thing.
I'm thinking about how businesses could do this too. I mean, or organizations or families or communities we could just brainstorm and stretch around little simple things we could do to be able to do this. And I just, maybe we've always lived in a world where it felt like we really needed this kind of stuff to happen, that we really need this kind of love. I just, I mean, I've lived a long time too, and I just for some reason feel like this time in our lives just feels harder than many other times, and harder to love, and people are more separated, and there's so much conflict, and there's so much dissension and arguing, and just division. And so just maybe as you're listening, even if you don't have your own organization, maybe you're in a company or in an organization, or just even your family, you could think about what are some ways that we could do little things that would spread love in the world, that would love well by doing good.
Well, we've
we should probably think about more of that, even you and me. I mean, we do a lot of that, but it's just getting me to think about what else in our own community and our neighborhood.
That's the great question. What else, and who else? I mean, people all around us, they're hurting, they're lonely.
We have an example. We have done a Christmas Eve open house for a long, long time, years and years, and every year we're like, are we going to do this again? Because it costs money and it's time, and it's right before Christmas, and
it's a lot of preparation,
a lot of work. And will anybody really want to come? And every year, I feel like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and people will stop by on their way to something or on their way home from something, or sometimes our event is the something.
Right.
And
sometimes they're needing a little encouragement because they're going to go be with people that stretch them. And sometimes they come to us after they've made
recover.
That's right, to recover.
But, that's, again, I mean, I'm thinking about that already because of the time of year it is. I'm thinking, oh man, do I have the energy to do that again? And yet I always know, like, at the end of that night, it's one of the best parts of the season is just to extend our home hospitality and people meet other people. And, that time of year is the season of love. And so we get to express it that way. But
And people are more open to coming too.
Yes.
Because
and it's an open house. They can come in, they can stay for the whole time, they can leave, they can, pop in for 5 minutes or stay for 4 hours. Or sometimes people are longer. Like, okay, you got to go home.
That's right.
or
we're done. We have to go to bed. Well, there's a couch over there if you can't leave.
Yeah. So you we're in that area a long time, and now you're not in the nonprofit world. So what kind of transition was that for you?
Well, it was abrupt. It happened primarily because of 9/11. The whole country stopped to take a breath and to recover. And so people couldn't fly. We did training events for leadership in nonprofits and churches of all kinds. Didn't matter that we weren't denominationally based. Community development and leadership development are the same regardless of who you are, where you are in the world. The principles all apply. Anyways, people stopped coming because they couldn't fly, because we weren't like in a town and attracting the people just in that city. People would come from all over.
And you were going places too.
Yeah, all over North America with a team. But it pretty much stopped the whole nonprofit training world. Maybe a lot of R&D and training in corporations as well, to the point where we had to pivot. We had to make a switch. And so we found ourselves back in business world. We found a couple of cohorts, and we were able to buy actually a defunct or a bankrupt .com company and breathed new life into it and got it going again.
And that was cool too, because that was a mentoring solution. So we were incorporating so many of the same ideas of leadership, building community, establishing relationship in organizations, because a lot of times organizations aren't focused on people. Like, they're focused on profit, or focused on the number of widgets that they're selling, to make money, or what is sharings, right? But
these were Fortune 500 companies, large distributed organizations that were worldwide.
And we're just creating deeper relationships and community in them. So this is the theme, right? So we did that for a while until I basically said, I need to do something else besides call CEOs in Fortune 500 companies and try and get through the gatekeeper to have a sales cycle that was very long. And Tom was working with the technology department, and I decided that I thought that selling houses and looking at houses would be fun in 2005, which was a terrible time to get to real estate.
It was the end of the big boom, right before, in the United States anyways, the big crash, and we call it the bubble.
Right. And so in Colorado, they had changed the laws for good, right? But every single person in real estate had to get fingerprints, had to be having federal and state fingerprints to be able to sell real estate. So,
because it was in response to part of what brought about the bubble was lenders, realtors, real estate agents, inspectors, appraisers were all cutting corners.
Right.
And we brought it on ourselves, to be honest.
Yeah. So because of that, I got my license, but then I had to wait like 6 months, I think, almost. Maybe it wasn't quite that long, several months before I could officially sell real estate. And then I did get very busy because I was successful. And so then I dragged Tom into the business. Here he was.
But I was ready as well. The company was growing somewhat. We were having a good time, but it was a lot of hard work, a lot of thankless work. So I just cared for my team, but it was time for a change in a bigger world, and get out with a much larger crowd that we could actually talk to face to face.
And we always had this idea of what else could we do through building wealth through real estate, not only buying and selling real estate, investing in real estate ourselves and helping other people do that. But because really owning your own business, if you do it well, can mean you can build significant revenue. Now, what you do with it. I mean, revenue is different than profit, right? But because you can build significant revenue, and then if you structure things well, you can create profit, and then you can create opportunities for your own team or your people or your family or other people. We knew that it could be a vehicle that didn't have the kind of ceiling that some other working for a company or even some other businesses had.
And it led us to meet a wide variety of people, some who were in very good shape and others who weren't. Remember?
Yeah, in fact, the first few years were, kind of traditional real estate. And then, of course, 2008 hit, 2009. And then what happened?
Yeah, we had to
It's really hard again.
And move from traditional sales to helping people sell their house that are upside down, which means they owed more than they could pay. And so this thing called short sales was kicked in, and that was where we would go and make a plea and make a case to a lender and say, this is what we can get for this house in this market. Will you accept that and write off the difference?
It's kind of like going to a credit card company and saying, I know we owe this much, but would you consider settling for this much, versus someone going through bankruptcy or just totally defaulting.
Yeah,
it's
or foreclosure.
Right.
So because of that, it was anguishing time for people. They were losing their homes. Sometimes their dream home or the home that they held for decades, and they brought their kids up in it. And all of a sudden, they either got laid off or they had health issues or they were margined. I mean, they were extended beyond where they maybe should have been. And we had to go and make a case with these big banks to let them out of it, And then they had to talk about and think about, well, what do we do now? Where are we going to go? So we stood in a lot of people's kitchens, and they cried on our shoulders during that time. And we just had to hold them up in compassion and say, there's a future beyond your house. This is not your life. This is a place where you go and you'll make a home in another house.
And in fact, we got to experience that too. I mean, we didn't, because of that time and having all of those very expensive listings, most people were not buying or selling, or certainly the market changed drastically. Because after, that financial crash, people were very afraid to move and do anything. We had actually purchased a foreclosure, which we were very excited about. It was kind of our dream house, finished the basement off. It was on...
Fixed up the damaged area.
It was on a beautiful golf course with a gorgeous view of the mountains in Colorado. And now suddenly our own financial picture was impacted because when the faucet turned off, we had overhead and people to pay, including our own daughter. And that was a really tough time. And so we were like, are we going to be a short sale or a foreclosure, right? Are we going to be that? And fortunately, we did sell our house on my birthday. But then, that I think all that experience with other people. So we were doing some of that, but then we really were able to do a lot of it after that because we'd experienced what that at least could feel like or began to feel like ourselves. Right. And realized we can help people because of our own experience, which I think is the lesson I think about all the time is, we go through things not for ourselves. I mean, we do go through things for ourselves so we can learn. But I often feel like I go through things because there's other people on the other side that I'm going to help, because I totally understand what that feels like because I've gone through it myself. And so we got to experience that. And
Well, I've always admired in you that you're a lifelong learner, and you turn every experience not only into a personal learning and stretching, but for good. Because there are other people who are struggling in similar ways. Now it increases empathy and understanding for people. It's so easy to exclude people or just go, I don't want to work with that. They're in too much pain. And those people end up oftentimes marginalized. You remember fairly early on, I think you developed a relationship with a woman that you found out was being brutalized by her husband. And we kind of walked through a part of her life with her. And she went to court. She had to get a restraining order against her husband, her then husband. He was a very angry man. And we ended up listing and selling their house out of our own pocket because she didn't have it. And the equity wasn't in the house, but she needed to get out of there and move to another part of town and get a fresh start. And our whole team jumped behind that. Nobody was making any money off it, but we just saw, wow, this woman's needs some allies. She doesn't have her family, or her family is somewhere else in the country. But I think it was a great learning time to go, yeah, this isn't just about me. It isn't about, saving money or getting a nicer car or some other thing. But there are people in our lives who need our influence in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and I think that, because we have faced times in our lives where, this was one of them, where we would go for a walk in the morning, we'd sit on our porch, and I remember one day we're like, well, what if we do lose everything? Like, what if we lose our house and we don't have any money, and we lose our stuff and we lose our credit? And, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? We won't lose each other, because we're going to choose right now to say we won't lose each other. We won't lose the people we care about and who care about us. We could probably sleep on somebody's couch. I'd been through that. I moved to Colorado with nothing except my car and my clothes. And I had my fabulous cousin Sue, who said, you can live with me. And my mom was here. So I kind of couch surfed for several months. I was basically homeless. But there was something about facing that idea of, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And then realize, no, I'm just going to lose some material stuff for a while.
You're not going to have to.
I'm not just going to die. And I know how to work hard. And I have people who love me, who I love. And then here we are facing this together. And I remember turning to him and go, well, I kind of know how to do this. Like, it really sucks. But I do know how to lose it. Hard. And I do know, we'll be okay. But I think that I don't want to go through that again. And I am grateful that I know how it feels so that I can comfort somebody else. Like, maybe you're even listening and you're like you're like, we're going to lose everything. I just want to give you some hope today that you're not going to lose everything. You might lose your stuff for a while, but you are not going to lose who you are. You are not going to lose most of your relationships. And you're going to come out better on the other side. I came out better on the other side. I think I came out as a better person on the other side. It's a different level of compassion.
And then when we had to give up our home on the golf course and stuff, and take a big loss, we rediscovered some of that as well. They go, why stuff doesn't make my life. Yeah,
in fact, we even thought about making a whole job transition at that point. So we lived with some friends who we hardly even knew. Not because we had lost everything, but because we were actually the person, the home we moved to, that was ending. And so we were like, what do we do now? And so we actually lived with some people, and all our stuff was in storage. And after a while, we're like, do you remember what's even in there? Do you remember this?
Yeah, they
allowed us to bring our mattress with us. Some clothes and personal items.
We were thinking of moving out of the country.
But after several months, we went, do you miss any of that stuff in that storage box?
Yeah. But anyway, so where were we going with all that? I guess is just, we have so many opportunities in everything we do. And all of those opportunities have, I think, cemented this idea is, we are made for purpose. And everything we do, whether it's leading our family or being involved in a nonprofit or leading a business or working in a business, we have this chance to think about purpose is the most important thing. People and purpose are the most important thing. And those things can lead to significant profit. I mean, I shared on the first podcast that tracked over 15 years companies that actually positioned themselves that way. Big companies, were significantly more profitable in the S&P 500 even, in that Fortune 500 than companies that didn't, right? And
because they had purpose, which was greater than profit, and making sure the stockholders made good money.
Right. And don't get me wrong, profit is important because you cannot keep going if you don't have revenue.
But if you see yourself as profit's just a building block and your greater purpose, it gives you greater freedom.
Right.
Right. I mean, we're now a part of a real estate network. It's kind of a new way to think about real estate in the United States. That we are part of what's called the Flourish network, and it's a whole bunch of teams, and we have like centralized purchasing for administration and marketing and those kind of things. It takes all that off my plate, but they live by that as well. We have a nonprofit attached to the for-profit company, and we're digging wells, which was part of our personal thing. So it was a great fit for us. They're part of Habitat for Humanity. We're all going out in the next month to serve in our communities a number of different ways. And so that ethic runs through the business, and I believe it's really affected the culture for all these teams in a very powerful and deep way. And it really glues us together. And I've never been part of an organization where people are so kind to one another. And any one day on our intra-web, people go, hey, can somebody answer this question? Can somebody look this contract over? This part's new to me. I mean, typically doesn't take 10 minutes.
Well, and even recently you had some business that was like an hour away from us. You were going to go do something. Somebody found out about it, just jumped in and said, whoa, you don't have to drive down here. I'll just do that for you. They didn't ask to get paid. They didn't expect to get paid. It's a culture of contribution, knowing that, when we love well by doing good, there's this ripple effect.
Yes.